Hello everyone and welcome to another battle replay. This is Tactical Lich here, and thanks to viewer Omen sending in a battle replay, today we'll be looking at a grudge match, the Wood Elves versus the Dawi. Now both ends of the battlefield are deploying with mass infantry. For the Wood Elves, 5 Eternal Guards with shields. Being the relatively cheap infantry of the Wood Elves, they will be taking the brunt of the enemy attacks, holding down enemy infantry and absorbing missile fire, and allow the backlines where the 5 Glade Guards with Starfire Shafts resides, using the arrows to bloat out the skies and the armor-piercing arrow fire to pick out the key Dawi units. We also have a Wildwood Rangers here, chevroned up, probably going for a flank maneuver and see if they can get into the backlines and shut down the Dawi infantry and missiles. On the far flank, we also have a Lost Silver Knights, ethereal cavalry with great physical resistance, so as long as they are not shot by any artillery, they should do fine, as the dwarves lack magic damage. As for the leadership, we have a couple Waste Stalkers hidden from plain sight with their stalk ability, will be probably picking off some key targets like the artillery. In the skies, we have a Spellweaver of high magic with some Apotheosis, Soul Quench, Tempest, probably to deal with gyrocopters, as well as Arcane Conduit and Channeling Staff to improve magic regeneration and lower cooldown. Now for the Dawi, we have a front line of Dwarf Warriors, pretty staple right here, with all the shields and high armor. They can absorb a lot of missiles. A second line of Rangers, deployed a little bit towards the front so as to use that missile fire to counter any Wood Elf archers. At the back, miners with blasting charges, probably gonna be there to chuck in some explosives into the poorly armored Wood Elf infantry, namely the Eternal Guards. At the back, we have a couple more Dwarf Warriors on each flank just to secure the sides of the army, preventing any flanking maneuvers. We also have some Corralers in the middle, 3 units of them in fact, and more Rangers at the back, and also a couple organ guns as the artillery. At the back, we also have a unit of miners and some Dragonback Slayers to guard. So a very missile heavy build. A total of 8 missile units. Both armies are going missile heavy. The dwarves have the numbers advantage and also shields to absorb the missile fire, while the Wood Elves have the AP missiles to penetrate the Dawi armor. Let's get a battle started, send the arrows flying, and see who will survive in the end. The battle begins with some Waste Stalker opening fire with their Arrows of Kurnus, picking away one model of the organ guns. They are pretty much the artillery of the Wood Elves, other than the Sisters of Twilight, with their long missile range and a pretty decent armor-piercing profile. They can actually do some pretty accurate sniping on the organ guns and other artillery units, though the Arrows of Kurnus requires a little bit RNG. Infantry of the Wood Elves are pushing forward, trying to get into shooting distance against any key targets. They are now firing into the Dwarf Warriors, their Starfire Shafts allowing to penetrate the 85 armor of the Dwarf Warriors, but still, the Quarrelers and Rangers are really good against counterfire, as they do have that Bronze Shield absorbing 35% of the incoming missile fire. The melee infantry of the Wood Elves, including both the Eternal Gods and the Wildwood Rangers, are valiantly pushing forward, weathering the storm from a torrent of crossbow bolts. And now with a blasting charge supporting these Dwarf Warriors, the charge of these Wildwood Rangers are disrupted, and with the Dwarf Warriors blocking them, they will be soon seen off by the superior infantry of the Dawi, as they're now tattered and beleaguered from all the firepower. Lost Silver Knight successfully getting into one of the organ guns, actually probably gonna shatter it or at least rout it off in a couple of seconds, and there it goes. Great impact on the battlefield, breaking an expensive missile unit, but with a Master Rune of Slowness being dropped onto them, they are basically being forced to get out of this engagement before bogged down and slaughtered. In the front line, Eternal Guards are breaking from all that blasting charges from the miners, although this unit of Eternal Guard managed to push away one of the Dwarf Warriors with the support of some Glade Guards. So they should be able to get onto some of the artillery units or the missile infantry and shut them down for now. Over here, Eternal Guards here, engaging in melee against miners, but getting shot in the back and also tangled up onto some Quarrelers. They are basically attacked in the rear and shot in the back and are routed, while these Dwarf Warriors successfully routing the Eternal Guards, pushing forward, using that shields to absorb the missile fire and push into the Glade Guards. Although with all the crossfire from the missile infantry, they should be routed in no time, and there it goes. But overall, the Wood Elves still have a pretty tough fight to go, as there are so many infantry, especially shielded infantry, to take the shots from the Starfire shafts. And now the Starfire shafts with limited ammo, most of them are already down to half ammo. They gotta be careful with what they shoot at and not waste their ammo, ration them if necessary. Lost Silver Knights getting caught by Dragon Max Slayers with their 0 armor. Not exactly a good engagement, so they're quickly pulling back, but although they're already losing models to these Dragon Max Slayers being slowed and dragged down in melee combat, that's a heavy loss. And now they're pushing forward, going after the missile infantry here, trying to get as much damage done as possible. The Starfire shafts keep firing into the Rangers and Quarrelers, their armor-piercing missile doing some pretty decent damage. Let's take a second here to admire the torrent of fire coming in from both ends, the crossbow bolts and the arrows blotting out the sun with their sheer numbers. Both players going for mass missile infantry build, trying to overwhelm each other with their sheer volume of fire. Truly a magnificent sight to behold. Lost Silver Knights getting on top of a bunch of Quarrelers and Rangers, trying to dish out that charge damage, but Dragon Max Slayers, buffed up by Rune of Speed, hot in pursuit. They are quickly moving out of the engagement, but now the organ guns are able to turn around and focus them down. With that 334 missile strength, they can dish out massive damage. And even with the 80% physical resistance from the Lost Silver Knights, the Great Stag Knight's hitbox doesn't do them any favor as well, as they are larger targets and are easier to get hit by multiple shots from the organ gun. Every shot that lands can take away a huge chunk of their HP, and multiple shots are short enough to kill a single model. And every lost model is a massive loss to their DPS. And you can see here with all that focus fire, they are already down to less than half health, around 1/3. While the missile infantry of the Wood Elves are in a mass exodus, with all the infantry in the front line being lost to the superior dwarf infantry, the Dragon's Back Slayers driving forward, while the dwarf warriors standing firm. They are being forced away and now trying to fire at any dwarf units that pushes forward. The Lost Silver Knights being one of the remaining melee unit of the Wood Elves, now down to 14 models, 1120 HP. Another volley from the organ gun comes in. There goes another model, down to 13 models. It's not looking too well for the Wood Elves, as a lot of their missiles shooting into missile blocking infantry. Lost Silver Knights taking massive damage from all the counter fire from the Rangers, the organ guns, as well as the Quarrelers. The healing from the high magic Spellweaver does help a bit, but still, rapidly dropping from all the crossbow bolts, they are forced to extract themselves from the engagement. While the Dragon Max Slayers now still just pushing forward, trying to drive back the missile infantry of the Wood Elves. And bad news for the Wood Elves. A Master Rune of Slowness is dropped onto these guys, the Lost Silver Knights again, being slowed, basically static targets for all this crossbow fire and organ gun. They are down to 8 units, 8 models. They're getting melted and they're breaking from all the missile fire. Down to around 300 HP and still rapidly dropping. Most models are gone, probably not going to be returning with such a low level of health. A massive loss for the Wood Elves, as their only melee killing power is gone. That leaves the Wood Elf in a massive dent in the balance of power. Missile infantry are running low on ammo. Most of them are almost exhausting their ammo. This one already gone. This one still have half their ammo left. 34 models left, so times it by 10, that's 340 shots. Should do some decent damage. Still, only 34 models left. They do not have enough shots to shoot through all this infantry of the dwarves. And the Eternal Gods are running for the hills. Wildwood Rangers long gone from the battlefield. All that's left as a pocket of strength, the last bulwark of these guardians of FL Laurel, are these Waystalkers, who ran out of ammo going into combat against the Dwarf Warriors. Yes, they're decent duelists, but they're not good infantry grinders. They can probably kill a Phildawi, but Dwarf Warriors surrounding them with that heavy armor to mitigate the damage from these non-armor piercing Waystalkers, duelists. They will have a hard time cutting through all this infantry chaff, while the Quarrelers and Rangers will be able to dish out some pretty decent damage with every shot landed onto these poorly armored characters. These Glade Guards running out of ammo are running for the hills from all that missile pressure from the Rangers and Quarrelers. Spellweaver still roaming in the skies, trying to use that Arcane Conduit to top up some Winds of Magic, probably for another spells, either for healing or Soul Quench. with a volley, a torrent of missile fire raining into the large target, the hitbox of the Great Eagle. She is taking some pretty hefty damage. In a last-ditch effort, the Spellweaver of High Magic, accompanied by 2 of the Waystalkers, diving down trying to snipe out the Dwarf Runelord, but the Runelord with 120 armor and okay melee defense is standing strong, along with some supporting ranger units engaging in melee. The rangers routed, but the Runelord did not. The Waystalker as well as the Spellweaver taking some pretty decent damage from all the missile fire, the crossfire, backing off from the engagement down to 1/3 of her HP. The Spellweaver is probably gonna be finished off soon with all the crossfire, her lack of armor and the large hitbox making her feeling the pain from the crossbow bolts. Let's fast forward to the end as the last of the Glade Gods are firing their last arrows into the back of some Dwarf Warriors, spelling the end of the pointy ears. Before we go into the army performances, I would like to say big thanks to Omens for sending in this fun replay, watching those torrent of fire, the arrows and crossbow bolts, shooting, flying all over the battlefield is surely an enjoyment. And of course, I would like to thank you all viewers for watching this video. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe to get notified every time I upload a video, ranging from topics from wild army builds, battle replays like this one, or the occasional multiplayer tips and strategies. Now, for the army performances, the Wood Elf Infantry didn't really do much here, as they were getting blasted by the miners with blasting charges, explosives, blowing them up to smithereens. Only one Eternal Guard really earned back their value and got some very nice kills. Now, for the Wildwood Rangers as well, low armor, densely packed formation means that they are the prime victims of the miners. At the backline, Glade Gods, despite expanding all their ammo, are not enough to earn back their value. None of them actually earn back their worth, as 35% of their shots are ignored by the Dwarven shielded infantry. Their bronze shields really absorbing a lot of the armor-piercing missiles, and then due to the fact that most of the Dowie units are very cheap, 525 from the Rangers, 450 from the Dwarf Warriors, most of the Dwarf Infantry are cheaper than the Starfire Shafts themselves. Every kill they make with the Starfire Shafts are actually making them losing more balance of power, because that missile damage is not earning back the value that it worths. The remaining killer unit of the Wood Elves, the Lost Silver Knights, only 987 value. The charges are not as impactful as expected. They actually broke one of the organ guns, that is very nice, but charging around the backfield, being the prime victim of all that crossfire from the Rangers, Quarrelers, and getting chased off by the anti-large Dragonback Slayers, and to just really add the hurt to these great Stag Knights, the organ gun. One of them managed to get their sights onto these ghostly cavalry, ripping them apart with those multi-cannonball shots. And despite their physical resistance, all these damage adds up, and in the end, they were not able to escape from the Dowie missile fire. Waystalkers didn't really manage to earn too much value there. The arrows of Kurnos are nice, but only one volley was able to pick off any organ gun models. After that, they were just trying to unleash their shots into the Dowie units. However, just not a lot of units for them to shoot at. Maybe the Runelord is the best target, but still, a small infantry-sized target, it's pretty damn hard for them to hit. And the organ guns, one of them already broken apart by the Lost Silver Knights, and the other one is actually fairly protected by all the mass infantry of the Dowie. They were not able to do too much work. Spellweaver here did a little bit better, 1100 value, with the Soul Quench blasting into some of the Dowie formations, but still not being able to earn back her value. And in the end, her low armor, large hitbox gave the Rangers and Quarrelers a pretty large target to shoot at. Now for the Dowie, the infantry on the Dowie's end didn't really earn back too much value as well. Only this one miners with blasting charges really earned back their worth, as they were probably blasting some Wildwood Rangers. Runelord there wasn't there for damage, but mostly there for buffing, using that Runelord speed there, accelerate the Dragonback Slayers, letting them keep up with the swift and agile Lost Silver Knights. The real damage dealers are all these missile units here. The Rangers here, using that shields to absorb missiles from the Starfire Shafts, every missile block is some value earned, returning fire with their crossbow bolts. Having around the same range as the Starfire Shafts, without the squishy weakness of the Wood Elf Archers, they actually do some massive damage with their crossbow bolts. Most of them earning back their own value here, some of them earning over 1000 value. A consistent performance overall. Crawlers did a little bit worse as they were pretty far back behind, probably get charged down by some of the Lost Silver Knights. However, their heavy armor, high defensive stats as far as ranged units goes, let them fight a little longer in the combat. Organ guns, one of them got broken off early, but the other one able to focus down the Lost Silver Knights, using that volley fire to rip away these expensive cavalry. They are really key in preventing the Wood Elves from dominating the mobility game. So overall, I would still say that the mass missile fire is not exactly the best option for countering the Dawi, as they have so many tools to counter your own missile units. They have cheap infantry with shields to absorb your ammo. Their ranged units have shields as well to absorb your ammo, while they can effectively counter fire your squishy Wood Elf archers. To add on top of that, their artillery are devastating to your large units, and of course your static missile line. You're actually losing more balance of power with your shots than you're gaining overall. I have been thinking about how to deal with the Dawis as the Wood Elves, but to this day it's just such a tough nut to crack. There are no effective solutions so far, and probably I'll need to invest more time and effort into it. But for now, that's gonna be it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one. Tactical Lich signing out.